Good evening. Thanks for joining us. So school, as you know, is the place we send our kids to set them up for success. But during the COVID-19 pandemic, we all know schools struggled. They had to adjust, just like all of us, to the unknown in real time. So to help get them through it, the federal government put up $190 billion. Schools could use that money however they needed to keep themselves afloat and to keep educating our children. But in the next year, that funding is finished, over. That, along with several other factors like lower enrollment and inflation, is leaving school districts facing tough budget shortfalls. Minneapolis Public Schools is one of those districts. It got more than $250 million from that federal pool of money. But with the clock ticking on when that runs out and with a big deficit looming for the district, we could be approaching some tough choices. John Croman is here to talk about that with us tonight. Hi, John.
Hey, Jana, they're not talking about closing schools or massive layoffs at this point, but they know those are distinct possibilities at some point. Tonight, the Minneapolis School Board is adopting a budget for next year that anticipates a $48 million hole that will need to be filled with those reserves. Today, when board members and district officials weren't calling us back, we consulted two high school kids who took a hard look at that issue. At the Davis Center, tough decisions on the horizon as the district prepares to adopt a budget that includes a large deficit and one that envisions leaving 5% of the positions in the district unfilled.
Idea for the podcast, figure out why all these problems are occurring at South. And so we just start looking at budgets and looking at spreadsheets.
Tennyson Stinson and Ezra Kenner Roth just graduated from South High. One of their projects for their Voices Heart class was a podcast, What We Are Owed.
And what we found was so complicated that we as students had no way of understanding what was going on. And we realized that the issue wasn't that some foreign entity was taking the money we deserve, but that it wasn't getting there in the first place and that it wasn't being given to us.
Tennyson and Ezra started school in the midst of a pandemic, and South was right next to ground zero for the social unrest after George Floyd's murder. Throw into that mix the historic teachers' strike and the district's budget woes and a redistricting plan that moves students and money away from South.
And at the end of last year, we learned that the entire position of band director was being cut. There is no band director at South High School. It's been really hard to watch my favorite programs in these very important classes to me just lose support and lose resources and continually shrink. And they're not the same thing they used to be.
Seeing it kind of all the money that was supposed to be there kind of go down the drain, and see my friends in other schools have, very successful musicals and plays and things that uplift the arts community. It was just very, very depressing to see.
For their podcast project, the boys consulted former state rep Jim Davney, the legislature's leading expert on school finance, who told them that MPS has historically been underfunded.
Our district is required to provide this many services, and they're not fully funded. And Minneapolis Public Schools, because we have all these buildings spread out across the city, it's a really expensive district to operate compared to other school districts.
There's a study done, and that study said that Minneapolis Public Schools need about 70% more funding than basically every other place or every other place in the area, because of all these extra things putting on, not because they're wasting money.
The legislature just boosted per pupil state aid by a record amount, and the district is expecting to get $31 million more from the state than it did last year. But the district's enrollment is declining, dropping from 37,000 in 2017-2018 to 30,000 this past academic year, and fewer students translates to less money than districts with growing enrollment. Again, no talk yet of closing schools, but that pandemic money will run out during the 2024-2025 school year. And of course, Jana, just the whole political debate over who gets what within the MPS district is its own story, which we could spend hours on.
Right, and I'm sure that's all going to come up at the school board meeting that just started about an hour ago. A lot of new board members, an interim superintendent to make some tough choices.
That's right.
All right, thanks so much, John. We appreciate it.